There is a lake at the edge of a small valley. It is quiet here, it is peaceful, and every summer animals gather at its edge. Birds land on the water every morning. Deers come down from the hills to drink at dusk. Fish swim beneath the surface in calm, clear water. It is a normal lake. Until one summer, everything changed. At first, it was just one dead bird on the shore. Then a fish floated belly up near the reeds. Everyone thought maybe it was old age. Then more birds. Then a dog that had gone for a swim. Within days, the lake had gone silent. No birds landed, no deer came to drink. Even the insects disappeared from the shoreline. And then one morning, an investigator arrived to find out what happened. When he arrived, he expected to find something obvious. Maybe a snake bite. Maybe a spider's nest. Maybe something sharp hidden in the reeds. But she found none of that. No fang marks, no webs, no predator tracks anywhere near the bodies. Everything around the lake looked untouched. The water, the rocks, the reeds along the edge. It looked like the danger had come from nowhere. But there was one thing different about the water. A strange color. A faint green-blue tint, almost too subtle to notice. The investigator began writing down clues. There's no evidence of a venomous snake. No sign of spiders, no sign of scorpions near the shore. Nothing looked like a bite or a sting, but in every dead animal she found the same pattern. They had been drinking from the lake. Then they grew weak. Then they collapsed near the water's edge. The strange part was this. The danger did not strike with fangs. It did not hide in the grass. It did not slither or crawl. It did not even move. It simply sat there, in the water, waiting to be swallowed. Now, when you ask people, what is the most poisonous thing on Earth? Most answers sound the same. Some people say snakes. And it makes sense. Snakes look dangerous. They have venomous fangs. They strike fast and silently, and movies made them look like the ultimate threat. Other people say spiders. Spiders are feared for their venom, their bite, their webs. Many people are afraid of them on sight alone, and some people say scorpions. Scorpions sting with a curled tail, sharp, sudden, painful. Some people say jellyfish. Jellyfish are feared because their sting is invisible until it's too late. Some people say poison dart frogs. Tiny, brightly colored, and famous for carrying enough toxin to be deadly with a single touch. And some people say pufferfish, a creature so toxic that one mistake in the kitchen can be fatal. So it makes sense why people choose these creatures. They look dangerous, they feel dangerous. But here's the problem. The thing people fear the most is not always the thing that poisons the most living creatures. Fear is based on what we can see. A snake's fangs are easy to imagine. A spider's bite is easy to imagine. A pufferfish's warning spines are easy to imagine. They are dramatic. They are visible. They look like danger. But real poison is not always dramatic. Sometimes real poison's invisible, silent, spreading, almost impossible to see with the naked eye. A snake may scare millions of people, but snakes are not the leading cause of poisoning deaths in the natural world. A spider may look like a tiny monster, but spiders are not the top toxic threat to wildlife. A pufferfish may be one of the most lethal animals to eat, but even pufferfish are not at the top, because the most poisonous thing on Earth does not need fangs. It does not need a stinger. It does not need legs, spines, or a mouth at all. It only needs sunlight and still water. Back at the lake, the investigator finally noticed what everyone had missed. Near the shallow edges, near the warm sunlit shore, near where the water had barely moved, there was algae. Not just a little. A thick green-blue layer spreading across the surface. It was so ordinary that nobody treated it like a real threat. People assumed it was just pond scum, just a sign of a warm summer, just nature being nature, but they never imagined that this simple-looking growth could be more poisonous than a snake, a spider, or a pufferfish, because the algae's true danger is not how it looks. It is what it produces. Certain algae can release toxins directly into the water. It becomes an invisible poison factory. A silent contamination spreading through the entire lake, and that is what makes it so dangerous. Not its size, not its speed, but its ability to poison silently, without ever touching its victim. Not every algae bloom is toxic. In fact, most algae blooms are harmless. But some species can produce dangerous toxins called cyanotoxins. These come from a type of bacteria known as cyanobacteria. often called blue-green algae. Once conditions are right, warm water, sunlight, and excess nutrients, these organisms can multiply explosively, forming what scientists call a harmful algal bloom. The toxins they release can affect the liver, the nervous system, and in some cases can be fatal to animals that drink the water. This is why algal blooms are not just an ugly green layer on a pond, they are a serious natural hazard. And this isn't just something that happens in remote lakes far from people. In 2014, a major American city learned this firsthand. Toledo, Ohio sits beside Lake Erie, one of the largest freshwater lakes in the world. For years, fertilizer runoff from nearby farmland had been flowing into the lake, feeding the water with extra nutrients that algae loves. That summer, a massive algal bloom spread across the western edge of the lake, thick, green, visible even from space. The bloom released a toxin called microcystin directly into the water supply. On a Saturday morning, water testing revealed the toxin levels were too high to be safe. Within hours, the city issued an emergency warning. Nearly 500,000 people were told, do not drink the water, do not boil it, do not even brush your teeth with it. Store shelves emptied of bottled water within hours. The National Guard distributed clean water to families across the city. For almost 3 days, an entire major city had no safe tap water. Not because of a storm, not because of a broken pipe, but because of something growing quietly in the lake just outside the city. Something most people have been driving past for weeks without a second thought. And the scariest part? Algae does not need to hunt. It does not chase. It does not strike. Humans and animals often create the perfect conditions for it to thrive. Algal blooms grow fastest in water polluted with fertilizer runoff, warm temperatures from climate change, and still water with little movement or flow. To us, it looks like nothing more than green water. To the ecosystem, it can become a death trap. It spreads quickly, and it blends in easily. And because it is so common in lakes, people often stop taking it seriously. That is the trick. A snake is scary, so people avoid it. A spider is scary, so people stay away. A pufferfish is scary, so people are careful in the kitchen. But algae sits quietly in our lakes, in our ponds, near our drinking water, near where our pets swim. It is dangerous because it is ordinary. The lake did not fall silent because of a hidden predator. It did not fall because of a venomous bite. It was poisoned by something small, something overlooked, something people thought was just part of a normal summer. And that is the lesson. The most poisonous things in nature are not always the ones with fangs. Sometimes the real danger is the thing we walk past without a second thought. The thing we see every summer. The thing we think is too simple to be lethal. One bloom, one toxin, one quiet lake gone wrong. That is how the simplest organism in the water can become the deadliest thing in the ecosystem. So the next time someone asks you, what is the most poisonous thing on Earth? You might think of fangs. You might think of stingers. You might think of venom, but the answer is much quieter. The most poisonous thing is not the snake, not the spider, not the pufferfish. It is the algae, because poison does not always strike. Sometimes it just waits. The most poisonous thing on Earth isn't what you think it is.